Everyone counted them out after that week one loss, and then they kind of looked a little sluggish to begin. And this game, Kalen DeBoer really just said, no, we're not. We're here. This is what we want. I think they're back in the driver's seat now.
The driver's seat, I
the
think that's a little dramatic.
I mean, we look at I wouldn't say drivers. Okay, I mean they're moving back to where they need to be.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. I am Holden. I've got my main man, Alex Maas, with me today. First of all, thank you for listening to this podcast. We're super happy. And thank you for our supporters. You can follow us on Instagram at Inside the Huddle Podcast if you like what you hear. Also, we're on Spotify. And I mean, I'm kind of sick and tired of waiting, so let's get right into it, Alex. So the lineup for today, we're talking about what it really means for Alabama after their big win against Georgia. We're going to be talking about the coaching carousel. And then my personal favorite, Bruce Pearl steps down from the Auburn Tigers. And what does it mean to have his son, Steven, now holding the reins to this program? So I'm going to let you start us off traditionally. So what do you think about Alabama beating Georgia, coming back after a huge week one loss?
Yeah, man. It shifts the momentum of college football. I feels like. I mean, these are two very well-known named teams. In Georgia, losing their 33-game win streak at home, it puts them in a spot now. They're 1-1 in SEC play. Obviously, the SEC is a tough conference, right? So you got to win as many games as you can in there, and that one to Alabama kind of hurts them. Alabama, though, it sets a track for them now. Everyone counted them out after that week one loss, and then they kind of looked a little sluggish to begin. And this game, Kalen DeBoer really just said, no, we're not. We're here. This is what we want. I think they're back in the driver's seat now.
The driver's seat, I
the,
think that's a little dramatic.
I mean, we look at I wouldn't say drivers. Okay, I mean they're moving back to where they need to be.
Okay, yeah.
They're pushing to where they need to go.
It's a step forward to the ultimate goal of returning to those Nick Saban days.
Correct, 100%. And I mean, for Georgia, this kind of just hurts. Their O line was outplayed. They had under 120 rushing yards. They couldn't get that ball moving up to anything. They didn't look good. They didn't look like they wanted to. Obviously, like they haven't looked amazing throughout this whole year. They haven't looked special. They haven't looked killing like they have in some of the early 2020s era. I mean, they struggled a little bit against Austin Peay. We saw they had a little bit of offensively there to start the game. Even Tennessee, they were down big at the beginning of the game and they didn't win till they came back at the end. So it kind of just shows for Kirby Smart and his team that there's a few things that need to be looked at, offensive wise especially, and then they need to get back on track. Obviously, this doesn't kill them. This obviously doesn't affect them. Even now with this Big 12 team playoffs, it kind of does change a lot of things. If you do get one loss, especially to a high-ranked team, it doesn't hurt you always anymore. But this definitely does change the perception of those high-ranked teams in the SEC there.
Yeah, and just looking at Georgia, like they're not what they were 2 years ago. Carson Beck, Stetson Bennett, that like sort of era was where it was at for them. Even Brock Bowers. So, Kirby Smart, he's still the same coach, and that's what's great. But it's not the same QB. Stetson Bennett was a true pocket passer. Gunnar Stockton is an improviser / dual threat. And I don't think Kirby Smart really truly knows how to bring out. He's a system coach. That's what you call it. Kirby Smart is a system coach. And you bring in Gunnar Stockton, who doesn't really fit that system. And if you bring it together, then you're going to get what we're seeing here. And you're going to lose games. And, obviously, looking at him, I'm not super impressed with how, they played so far, but it's not the end of the world. And in the big picture of it, I think they need to turn it around. And I think Gunnar Stockton, he's a great QB, but I don't think he's going to find his best, playing at Georgia. if I'm being truly honest, I don't think Gunnar Stockton has a great fit at Georgia. I don't think he has a true home there. I think if you really want Gunnar Stockton to succeed, go play with someone who knows how to work with dual threat quarterbacks. Go play for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. We saw it with Carson Beck. Carson Beck says, hey, I'm not sure I like this. Let me go try something new. Let me go embrace myself in an environment where I feel welcome. Who'd he go to? The Miami Hurricanes. They're killing it out there. And I'm super proud of him. I'm like, you go do your thing. And I think Gunnar Stockton should do the same.
Definitely agree with you there. Diving into our another topic, coach.
Before we do that, I want to talk about a little bit about Ty Simpson. So, a huge trilogy of Alabama quarterbacks. It seems like for a while in the QB lottery, Alabama could not come up with an L. You had Jalen Milroe. You had Tua Tagovailoa. You had Bryce Young. And now Ty Simpson has probably the highest quarterback trilogy standard in the league. And he has to set that. Like, he has to be what all those guys, like Bryce Young and Jalen Milroe and Tua Tagovailoa, he has to be what those guys were. And I don't know if he can do it. He's a great quarterback. He pulled out a great win, but I don't know if he can do it. I think both quarterbacks on each side should both take a step back and explore a little bit, because obviously, you never truly know what it's going to be like until it's too late. And it's not too late for them. So, go get with a coach that makes you feel wanted. And if that's DeBoer, feel free to stay. If it's not, you can, the door's open. So, very happy with both teams. It was a great game. But I think in the future, it could be a totally different matchup. So, sorry I kind of interrupted you before I got into my whole talking session. But what do you think about Florida right now and their situation with Billy Napier?
It hasn't been looking good. We saw struggles last year with them. They didn't really play the best. And then this year, it completely just hit the floor, right? We had a game, DJ Lagway threw for 5 interceptions. They haven't won these big games they need to win. They're not playing well. I really don't think they're playing well, and it just hasn't looked good. And I don't think Billy Napier's the answer for Florida anymore. It hasn't worked out. We haven't seen anything big yet.
Yeah. And it kind of reminds me of something my grandfather told me once. He had a Darryl Strawberry rookie card, and he held on to it, and it got more valuable and more valuable and more valuable. And then it was worth like $1,000-something, and he decided to wait just a little bit longer. And then he got busted for steroids, and the bottom fell out of it. And that's what happened to Florida. I think, they had a great team. The Swamp Kings documentary. That shows the true bad to the bone essence of Florida. It all started happening after Meyer left, right? And then they get a little bit better. You get stuff with Anthony Richardson and Kyle Trask, and you're sitting pretty good. And now you go to Graham Mertz. I think you had that slight tip in momentum. And then you get to DJ Lagway. I don't know who the heck that offensive coordinator is. You need to fire him before you fire Napier, but the bottom fell out of the team. And there's nothing really else to say about it. I think they fire Napier. I think they fire that offensive coordinator. Props to the defensive coordinator, because Florida's always been known for their defense. And I think they're kind of keeping that as, a true core value of them. The running back, Ball. I can't think of his first name, but he's a baller. He is. And DJ Lagway's good. He's not great. He's good. I really expect him to be Heisman caliber coming into this year. What we got in return is probably one of the most atrocious things I've ever witnessed. And it's very, 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 very frustrating to watch DJ Lagway suffer at Florida. And I'm not going to say none of it's his fault. He kind of put this on himself. And he should have said something at that offensive coordinator. He netted 1 in-air passing yard in their last game. He had 56 yards passing, but 1 in-air yard. So that means he's just throwing screens for 60 straight minutes. And somebody stop me if I'm wrong. That should be illegal. It really should. That should be illegal because that is a disservice to the world of football. And 57 passing yards is awful too. Just pointing that out there. And it's not like they're giving it to the running back every play. He's not showing up either. And I think Florida right now is just an all-around train wreck. So what they need to do is obviously, Lane Kiffin coaching at Ole Miss. He is a real possibility. He's a dream possibility. He knows how to work with players like DJ Lagway. He worked with Jackson Dart. I said this earlier. That worked out super well. Now Jackson Dart is sitting pretty good in the NFL. But coming into a conversation where you've got DJ Lagway, and I don't even know, I can't think of his name right now, the Ole Miss QB. But I think Lane Kiffin, I don't think anyone would blame him if he packed up his bags and left Ole Miss right now. It's a possibility. He could absolutely do it in the middle of the night. You know me, I'm a diehard Vols fan. He left us. He did. In the middle of the night, no goodbye, no warning, just gone forever. And he could do it again. He's not scared to do it again. I don't think he's changed at all. He's still that same Lane Kiffin who we threw mustard at Neyland Stadium. I am kind of scared. I'm not going to get into it, but, us Vol fans, they get drunk, they get crazy. And I think if he comes to coach at our biggest rival, I don't know, I think they're going to need security guards, on the spot, because we're going to be past mustard cans and golf balls. So I think he should definitely go to Florida. I really think. And if not Lane Kiffin, then Brian Johnson, the Eagles OC. I think what they need most is an offensive guru coming in there. All kind of military style. All right, you maggots, your butts belong to me type football. Someone needs to take command of this Gators team. And they need to mold it into what they used to be. When you have Brandon Silent, when you had Tim Tebow, when you had Brandon Spikes, when you had Percy Harvin, and even Emmitt Smith. And they just need to mold it into what it used to be. So I think what's most important, you could say this about every team, but really Florida. They need a leader. They need a knight in shining armor to come in there and lead them. Because right now it's chaotic and it's going every which way. And quite frankly, Sunbelt Billy has no idea what he's doing. So bring in somebody who does. Simple as that. All right, sorry, I kind of got a little passionate there. What you got?
Oh, I definitely agree with you. And I mean, like I was saying, Florida just hasn't been that spark that they've had in the past, in the early 2000s and everything. It's just not what they used to be. And I agree with you. I definitely think they need someone to come in that can actually step it and change it around and can truly bring light to this team that needs a little bit of it. Speaking of change, Auburn, Bruce Pearl is out as head coach. He stepped down after 11 seasons. He put his mark there at Auburn, Final Four season, he had multiple SEC titles. I think he really did help rebuild Auburn's identity into the best.
He didn't help rebuild. I think he did rebuild. And it's tough. It is. I think 11 years is 11 years too short with them. So, obviously, he could have gone much longer. Multiple Final Four appearances. AP Coach of the Year in 2025. And, I said this before, I'm going to say it again. I'm a Vol fan. I'm not going to get up here, and I'm not going to call Bruce Pearl a traitor. And I'm not going to call him a bad man. And I'm not going to get emotional. Because Bruce Pearl is one of the greatest coaches that college basketball's ever seen. I'm talking Rick Barnes, John Calipari caliber. So, Stephen Pearl better know what the heck he's doing. Because you've got some pretty good sized shoes to fill, little man. And walking in there, frustrating. So, I'm excited for good and for bad. Part of me does want to see Auburn fail because, my Bulls never won a championship. That's one less thing I gotta worry about. But part of me wants to see this team fail. But part of me really wants Stephen Pearl to rise up and, fill those shoes and exceed them. Like, not just be his dad, be better than his dad. And I think that's what he's really striving for coming in. Obviously, a little bit of a bold move, kind of a out of the blue, just, hello, I'm here all of a sudden type move. And, obviously, it was kind of on short notice. There was really no rumors, nothing going around that Bruce Pearl was going to step down. He kind of just did it. So, Steven, thank you for coming here on such short notice. Get to business.
Right. He's got big shoes to fill. You said he definitely did. All the pressure's on him. It's Final Four expectations off rip. If that's what they've had, that's what they're going to continue to want. So, just because it's your first time coming in here, they're going to continue to make sure that those expectations are high and are going to give him leniency. If he can maybe take a year or two, but if they see that he doesn't have what it takes, they're not going to be scared to cut him. Obviously, Bruce Pearl did step in.
Don't be scared to cut him at all. There's way more fish in the sea that want that Auburn job and that can excel at it. So, yeah. Steven, I hope, you should hope and I should hope that you know what you're doing. Because if you end up like Billy Napier, last year, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to this. I feel very passionate about the subject. So, last year, Florida struggled. There was rumors that Billy Napier was going to get fired. And then Florida came out and said, Billy Napier is our guy. Well, he hasn't proved it. And what if that happens with Steven? I'm worried. I am. So, just talking, about the flip side of things. If things don't work out, there's really nowhere for Steven to go. And the Pearl, family, whatever you want to call it, is ruined. So much pressure. I think it's a lot more pressure than most people bring into view for him. So I think that's all we got to say. I'm Holden. I got Alex Maas with me. Thank you for listening to Inside the Huddle podcast with Oak and Alex.